As I've said before, that everybody stands here has an agenda, and mine is the cause of poverty and all the other things that entails. Over 50 years ago, a doctor told me that if I was to come to her with some symptoms of diarrhea and rash and earache and problems with eyes and one thing or another, she told me that she could put salves on the rash and drops in the eyes and kaopectate and et cetera, and treat all the symptoms, and the end result that I would die because they were symptoms of typhoid. On the other hand, if she treated the typhoid, the symptoms would go away. So with the poverty thing, my approach is to treat the cause of poverty and not so much treat the symptoms, which means I'm not a big fan of the post office having a food drive once a year. I don't think that's very effective, and I've been told that in Casper there's over 100 organizations that deal with poverty and clothes drives and food things and one thing or another. And as near as I can tell through all their results, that the problem is now worse than it was before. So evidently they're not treating the cause. So what I feel is the cause is basically land use and tax structure. I think there's a lot of data out there that would prove my point. And because of, I've been coming to these meetings now for about 3 years, and the council talks about various parcels that they're going to buy and one thing or another. It led me to do some research, and the research has been truly mind-boggling. Has to do with property taxes for one. So I'll just stick with the property tax for now. I went to the assessor's office, and they have a website that lists, public record, all the property assessments in the county. And Natrona County is not unique. And so I kind of clicked around and found just totally amazing numbers. I mean, we take a pledge of liberty and justice. And justice, to me, implies equal treatment, fair play, well, when dealing with the property tax, that's not the case by just outrageous proportions. And I'd like to give you some numbers. I checked maybe 50 properties, and I found 40 anomalies. It's not like I went through hundreds and hundreds and hundreds to find 40 anomalies. I mean, it's just bewildering. And I'll start with an area that we're all familiar with, and it's the Boom area, and that's 2nd Street heading towards Hat 6. And it's all on the computer. You just click and up pops the information and you compare it to another one. And I'm not saying that the numbers I'm going to give you are accurate. I'm just giving you for comparison purposes. And these are from the assessor's office. And for one, we all know where the Volkswagen dealer is on 2nd Street. And I'm just dealing with the land portion of the property tax. And the tax is actually 3 taxes combined, but I'm just going to specifically stay with the land portion because that has to do with areas, like North Casper areas should be like this, and the Paradise Valley kind of should be similar, and Allendale and, different neighborhoods. And that's not the case, and I just found it totally amazing, and maybe you might too. But the Volkswagen dealer, the land under it is market value, according to the assessor's office, is $110,000 an acre. I don't know if that's what market value is. That's just what she says it is. And our current assessor right now, Connie Smith, has only been recent elected, so I'm not blaming her or anything for anomalies. And I've had discussions with her, and I told her that I was coming here. So anyway, across the street is Famous Days. We all know what that is. Well, the land under that is $328,000 an acre.
Wow.
And, you know, and then I saw the next parcel on the north side of the street, heading back towards town, heading west, is a parcel with a whole bunch of little buildings, offices and clinics and real estate. I don't know exactly what all the little buildings are. But that land, according to the assessor, is $54,000 an acre. Just, wow, okay. I clicked on Keg and Cork. That's $82,500 an acre. The land between Keg and Cork and 2nd Street is $110,000. I clicked on Menards. That's $60,000 an acre. Coca-Cola, just down the street, $110,000. And there's no real difference that I can discern between just the dirt value, the location value. So I happened to click on Olive Garden. That's $348,000 an acre. Right across the property line to the east is an 11-acre parcel. The assessor said the whole 11 acres is worth $8,000 or $800 an acre. Right next to land that's $348,000 an acre.
Wow.
I think there's a problem with that.
But that's an undeveloped tract, I assume.
Dirt is dirt.
They all were.
But that's the difference, I assume.
Yes. I have a friend who lives in Mills, 4th Avenue off of Poison Spider. It's a little quarter-acre lot, but by the acre, his land is worth $200,000 an acre, according to the assessor, which is twice or 3 times the value of most all the properties out on 2nd Street, which I find, you know,
odd.
Interesting. I have another person that I know that lives on Goldenrod in Paradise Valley. He's about 4 or 5 houses in off of Paradise Drive. His land is valued at $210,000 an acre. Less than a block away across on the east side of Paradise Drive, there's some bare land that it's river frontage, by the way, and it's valued at $4,000 an acre. I just find these numbers across the river. I know a gentleman, I worked for him for many years, and he has about 500 or 600 feet of river frontage, and I guess it's called Dempsey Acres, but it's he has a big house, very huge, and his little dirt is $15,000 an acre for tax purposes.
And I'm sorry to interrupt, but you're still, I assume, interested in us looking at.
I would like you to acknowledge that there's a problem.
Okay.
Because if these properties, like on 2nd Street, the $800 land was paying the tax rate of everybody else in town, I conclude that, or would suggest that it wouldn't be vacant lots anymore, that they'd be developed, because the tax would eat into the speculative gain of these properties. At the same time, if they weren't penalized for the development, and I've explained to the council that the property tax is punitive in its nature, that if you do develop it, you pay huge fines or huge tax increases because of the developments. And every time, you know, many times I come here, there's always been comments about we don't have affordable housing. Well, the reason you don't have affordable housing is because the developers can't afford to build houses on $348,000 dirt. It's just, that sort of takes the affordable out of it. So if they were paying the taxes at the same rate as everybody else, at market value, and we all know what market value is, there'd be a lot more development going on, which means a lot more jobs going on, and there would probably be a labor shortage, which means the wages would tend to creep up. In 2008, you got $12 working at McDonald's, which is higher than anywhere else in the country. You know, so.
I mean, I think those of us who have looked at this idea are all, I can only speak for myself, intrigued with it. But the only body that has the authority to do what you're suggesting is the state legislature.
Well, if nothing else, minimum is that it should be the same for everybody. Forget the different tax rates on buildings and land. If the Constitution of the state said assessments should be at market value, okay, let's just go with that. And still have a tax on it, but let's get, if it's $348,000 land, I don't think it should be taxes on $800, which is like $5 a year. I mean, you know, urban sprawl is a dirty word when it comes to city development and all. I mean, it just increases the cost for everybody. Extending utilities way out in the middle of nowhere just because that's the cheapest land that they can afford to build a house that anybody can afford to buy. And there's a couple other, I've looked at most all your parcels, you know, where you live and did the, you know, what, and the average value of the land under your all homes is about $360,000. Well, excuse me, I might be wrong. About $270,000 an acre. I'm not saying you own an acre. And there's a house on, well, it's Mick McMurray's house. The land under that is valued at $55,000 an acre. The guy that lives across the street is $255,000 an acre. I mean, that just looks bad, you know. And unfortunately, the land that's next to Olive Garden, $800, is owned by the same family. I mean, it just looks suspicious. I'm not saying, I don't know why it's like that, but it just looks bad. And now you know.
Giles, is there something under our purview that you would like us to
acknowledge that there's a problem?
I can't justify those differences.
I know. Who can? And so, and like I said, I only check 40. If I check 100, then I'll find 60 anomalies. And if the sales tax was the same way, and you went to the hardware store, all of us, and bought the same hammer, some of us would pay $5 and plus a quarter's worth of tax, and some of us would be paying $27 in tax. I mean that's the difference. The difference between Olive Garden and land next door is something like 40,000%. That's not even close. I mean, and it's not
Who's
just
putting
this year. It was
evaluations
last
on
year,
these properties?
the year before that, the 20 years before that. I mean, come on. And so, if you just make it fair and the same, I think that the situation would be a whole lot different. We wouldn't have, 37% of the kids in Paradise Valley School getting free and subsidized lunches. In North Casper, 70%.
But the frustration I'm sure you share with us is we have no authority over any of these matters.
You can make a phone call, say, hey, we've discovered some anomalies. Can anything be done? I mean, you're the leaders of the second largest city in the state. Is it my purview to call the State Board of Equalization and the legislature and all that sort of thing? They'll laugh me out of town. But you guys have some clout.
Mr. Jiles?
Yes.
Have you gone and do you keep hounding the county commissioners the way you keep coming here. And the reason I'm asking that is the city assessor, or the county assessor, is under the county commissioners, and that's where the problem starts, and it goes from there through the state legislature.
That's true. I went there twice. I gave them these same numbers, and they looked at me like I was wearing a tinfoil hat.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's not
Find that
funny,
funny,
actually,
Robin?
but I was totally, I mean, they just, I would almost say that perhaps a couple, three of them were in collusion, but that's just a speculation on my part, you know? But if you, 20,000
doing these
people
valuations?
in your city are being victimized, which is dragging them out of the next 20%, dragging them down, creating a burden. Because poverty just sucks the life out of a community. I mean, you have to come up with ways to help them. Like I said, there's over 100 organizations in
Valuations
town,
are skewed.
churches and one
That's
thing and
what the
another,
problem
hand out
is.
food or clothes or help with medical expenses or just, I mean, isn't there something odd with those numbers? The happier community they got jobs. You have a lot of people stand here and say, yeah, we have a lot of poor people, and they all got jobs, and they all work hard and all that, but they still have to sleep in their car because they can't afford to live here. Isn't there something slightly askew with it? When I contend there's a way to fix it, make it better, a little, a lot, how much you want, you know? And it really doesn't cost a dime, but if you just acknowledge it, make some calls, tell some people, hey, come up here and check, let's make it fair for once. You know, what the heck? There's one person here, $269,000 an acre for their land compared to the rest of the town is just preposterous. Which is 3 or 4 times or 40%, 40,000% more than the high value stuff on it. We all know it's high value out there. Try and, you guys deal with Kate all the time, and I didn't know what that was, so I went to their website, and they sell real estate, and I clicked on a couple. One of them they had for sale was Laser Tech. We all know where it is, across the street from Ford dealer. So Kate had it on the market for $1.2 million.
Jesus
Investor said
Christ.
it's only worth $360,000, but who in the world can afford to pay $1.2 million for that location and come up with a building that can generate enough revenue to at least support them and pay all the expense that's implied with $1.2 million? You drive down the street, you don't have a clue what's going on in the building. Let me get a couple more things just so I give you something to think about.
Please.
2 more things. Walgreens on the east side of town. I don't have a problem with the store and everything. They built the store, they sold it to an outfit, then leased it back. The lease payments is $34,000 a month. So when you're on Walgreens, that doesn't include the salaries, the utilities, or anything, just the rent is $34,000 a month. When you go in there and pick up something, how much markup is in this thing just to pay the rent? I mean, my God, isn't this a little, is that how much it costs to do business in this town? I mean, the numbers are just staggering. No wonder we have people that can't afford to live here. I could give you some more numbers, but I won't. I mean, everybody goes to the mall and watches a new business a month come and go. Why is that? We all know, because the rents are just preposterous. Okay, I'm ready for questions.
Mr. Vice Mayor.
I know everybody's tired, but Mr. Gaddis was here talking about
Yes.
maybe getting rural development loans 0% down, and then changing and going from rural to being annexed in the city. When you were listening to that, did you hear any clicks like maybe that's part of the problem?
No, I mean, to me, that's kind of adding to the urban sprawl. I mean, my favorite building in this town is the First Interstate Bank building. It has 2 levels of parking, and it has 12 floors or whatever of office, and it could have had another 3 floors of apartments above that. It could have had a park on top. It didn't because of the tax penalties, from the property that prevented those sort of things, but that's my favorite building. I think cities should be built more pyramidal and not stretching out where you can stand on an orange crate and see the curvature of the earth. I think it should be,
We are working on that.
But the nature of the system that we have promotes slums, creates blight, slums, none of which create jobs. And then we have a governmental urban renewal thing, so we take money from everybody and then come in and kind of like old Yellowstone District, try and throw a whole lot of money at it, which makes a few people rich. And then the people who are going to work in the new facilities still can't afford to live here. I grew up in the Ozzie and Harriet. When I went to high school, all my friends, their mothers were home. That's not the case now. But it's a slow. Back in the day, my father paid 17% of his income in housing costs. Now it's 44 more percent every year, and then a few years it'll be 45, and then 50, then 55, and then 60, and then 80. Real slow but sure, so you don't notice. The kids now, they don't have a clue, except they can't afford to live here. They get a job anywhere, and they still got to live at home. I mean, there's a way to fix this, and it doesn't cost a dime. But if nothing else...
But it's not something we can fix.
You can make a phone call, say, hey, you want to check my numbers? They're all online. And if my numbers that I just gave you are correct, then there's a problem.
I'll bring it up in our next work session to see if there's a will for council to address this and see if we should be trying to advocate for some changes.
I would think you shouldn't have a choice. I mean, somebody's getting hosed, and some people are getting a free ride. And it's not just nickels and dimes. We're talking...
We did follow up on your suggestion, and that's not done, but it's been difficult.
Well, that's why I came today. I tried to maybe spur this along and say, there is a big problem.
I don't think you're going to get any argument from anyone up here.
Thank you.